The college football playoffs are set as the four teams were announced earlier in December by the playoff committee. Michigan claimed the number one seed with a perfect record on the season as they look to win a national championship for the first time since 1997. Another team with a perfect record is the Washington Huskies, who occupy the second seed, as Michael Penix Jr. hopes to lead his team to its first championship since 1991. The Texas Longhorns, who have been a pleasant surprise this season, posted a 12-1 record and come in as the third seed. Wrapping us up is a familiar face in the college football playoffs, as the Alabama Crimson Tide are the fourth seed after beating Georgia for the SEC championship. While we know the teams that made it, let's talk about some of the controversy surrounding these selections, as there was plenty to go around. Hello everyone, and welcome to No Huddle, a YouTube channel by college football fans for college football fans. And in this video, we go over the playoff selections. We'll go over the three teams we believe are garnering the most chatter amongst the community and break down things further on why teams got in and why teams got left out. Without further ado, let's bring up the first team, FSU. Perhaps one of the biggest names left off the list is the Florida State Seminoles. The ACC champions and undefeated at 13-0, FSU showed signs of dominance throughout the season against teams like LSU, Clemson, a ranked Duke team, and 14-ranked Louisville. A lot of controversy has been stirred up due to the College Football Playoff Committee leaving the Seminoles off the top 4 list. One of the sticky points of this, where a lot of people are getting caught up, and reasonably so, is does the Jordan Travis injury push FSU out of the top 4? We here at No Huddle believe the injury did just that. It's certainly not fair to FSU to have an undefeated record and be conference champions, only to not be selected. But once Jordan Travis went down, the offense faced a major void in a facilitator and great passer. In the 2 games Travis didn't play, the Seminoles scored 24 and 16 points, where the 24 tied for the second lowest, and the 16 was the lowest score of the season for FSU. We do believe this gave the committee enough reason to toss FSU aside. Let us remind you that Jordan Travis finished the season with 2,756 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. He also rushed for 176 yards and 7 touchdowns on the ground. So this is obviously great production, but that also leaves a void in the offense. Also, FSU, while they played good teams and beat them with relative ease, their strength of schedule ranking is not in that top 50, so this could be another reason the committee didn't give the Seminoles a top seed. While FSU played 2 games without Travis, to judge a team based off 2 games where they're adjusting the offense incredibly much to compensate for not having their top player, FSU still won. The strength of schedule may indicate that FSU did not play the absolute juggernauts of all time. LSU, Clemson, a ranked Duke team, and a ranked Louisville teams are all good wins. We believe excluding FSU does not look great, but it may be the correct decision. If you put the Seminoles against Michigan, the Wolverines may easily win. Part of that is because FSU is without Jordan Travis. If the Seminoles make it as a 2 or 3 seed, then we still don't think it'll be fair because of the 11 of the 13 games Jordan Travis was under center. But overall, we believe there are 4 better teams than the Florida State Seminoles. Texas. The inclusion of the Longhorns has also caused some controversy among the college football fandoms. Coming into the preseason, a lot of people didn't have Texas high on the list of college football programs, and understandably so. In the 2 years under Steve Sarkisian, the Longhorns went 5-7 in 2021 and improved to 8-5 in 2022. The sentiment was that Sarkisian and the Longhorns couldn't break the glass ceiling of playoff football. Texas played remarkably throughout most of the season as they finished the 2023 regular season with a 12-1 record, but a lot of people point to the Georgias of the world, or FSU, and say they deserve a shot more than Texas does. While the Bulldogs and Seminoles may deserve one of the 4 coveted spots, let us tell you why we believe Texas is more deserving of a spot. The Longhorns shocked the world when they traveled to Tuscaloosa and defeated Alabama early in the season. From there, the expectations shifted for Texas, who were ranked 11 at the time. While that may be an obvious assumption or not, the ranking sure painted the picture that the Longhorns were a real threat in 2023. With the win over Alabama, the Longhorns jumped to the number 3 team in the country afterwards. The loss to Oklahoma hurt their season a bit as Texas trailed by 10 late in the fourth before taking the lead with 1 minute left. But when the Sooners managed to drive down the field and win the game, this drastically shifted the narrative on Texas. Maybe since then, there's been a belief the Longhorns don't deserve a spot because of that last-minute collapse. It could also be they're number 8 in the country until the selection on Sunday, and the most recent Texas victory was 49-21 over Oklahoma State for the Big 12 title. But the Longhorns faced one of the toughest schedules in college football based on the strength of schedule rankings. Teams like Alabama, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State all ranked at the time they faced off against the Longhorns. So Texas didn't cruise to a 12-1 record. Again, we said this doesn't determine everything, but being ranked near the top as one of the hardest schedules should mean in a general sense the competition Texas faced was some of the better teams. Let's not forget that the Sooners were ranked 12th in the country at the time. Since that loss, Texas rebounded quite well as the offense scored no fewer than 26 points in the 7 games after. The lowest margin of victory was 3 when the Longhorns beat TCU. We also think the running back duo of CJ Baxter and Jonathan Brooks did a great job for Texas, which was crucial for them after Bijan Robinson turned pro. While the two have not matched Robinson's production, the fact the Longhorns have been a respectable running game kept the offense balanced throughout the season. Alabama, it wouldn't be a playoff without an SEC. At least most people feel that way. Others, however, felt there was a bias towards the conference and believe Alabama shouldn't have made it. But we at No Huddle believe this is the easiest case to defend because the Crimson Tide just beat the Georgia Bulldogs, the number 1 team in the country at the time, in the SEC Championship. It was an impressive showing for both teams, but the SEC Championship had way more implications than just the division champ. Alabama's playoff hopes were tied to that game, and had they lost to the Bulldogs, then you'd see Georgia in and Alabama out. But let's go beyond that one game. Alabama suffered a loss against Texas early in the season, which caused a lot of critics to doubt Nick Saban, Alabama, and Jalen Milroe, all of which people speculated were not as good anymore. Saban may not be the best anymore. Alabama may be taking a back seat. Milroe may just be a regular QB and not fit for the starting role or the prestige that comes with being the Alabama starting QB. Since that loss, Alabama's lowest margin of victory was 3 against Arkansas, Auburn, and Georgia. Other than those games, the Crimson Tide played a vicious style of football and crushed their opponents. Against the ranked opponents, which at the time was Ole Miss at 15, Tennessee at 17, LSU ranked 14th, and Georgia, Alabama played fantastic. Except for the Georgia game, the Tide beat those opponents by 14 points. When looking at Alabama on paper, seeing the record and all, it feels like it's just another year in Tuscaloosa. But this team struggled in the beginning, and the loss to Texas is evidence of this. Granted, we're not taking away anything from Texas because they're a talented program, no doubt, but Alabama was not as sharp as they are now. If you look at the game log for Jalen Milroe, you see a huge jump around the time of the Mississippi State game where he went from a 10 for 12 performance with 164 yards to a 21 for 33 performance with 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. From that point on, Milroe routinely threw 2 or more touchdowns a game. The only exception was the game against LSU, where he didn't throw for a touchdown, but he rushed for 155 yards and scored 4 times on the ground. We don't believe Milroe's play vaulted Bama to this. That's not how it works, and we're not saying this is causation, but there is correlation. Also, Alabama played one of the toughest schedules, as ESPN ranked their strength of schedule 5th overall. So, 5th hardest schedule, and Bama came out 12-1, with perhaps a huge win being over Georgia for the SEC. It all looks good on a resume if you're the Crimson Tide and hoping for a playoff spot. Now, if Alabama had lost that game against Georgia, then there's no question the Bulldogs get in the playoffs. When coming down to the number 4 seed Alabama probably edges out Florida State on the strength of schedule, where there's a huge difference. Plus, as harsh as it may sound, and it does sound silly, but Milroe is healthy, which we bet is why FSU is not higher. There are our 3 teams we believe have the most controversy surrounding them regarding the selections. While we believe the committee made the right call on who got the opportunity to play for the chance at a national championship, we can certainly understand why people are left confused on some teams. Let us know in the comments what you think. Is there a team that we didn't discuss that you believe should have made it? What game are you most looking forward to? And share any other thoughts you have regarding the playoffs in the comments below. If you found this video enjoyable, consider liking it. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more college football content.